First of all, I want to apologize for not wearing any Ranger tees. Other than the Green Ranger tee that I sometimes have on, that's the only Power Ranger like shirt that I have. And honestly, when I think about that, I need to get more Ranger shirts because all I got, I've been looking, all I got is like all these Pokemon shirts, and it's just like, dude, I need to really change my wardrobe up because like having all this Pokemon shit now is starting to get real old with me. What is going on, guys? It's surely Master Sack right here. And despite my issues, certain issues, I've been watching, as I said before, a lot of like the History of Power Rangers reactions that me, Master Zen, and Urban Ninja have been doing, and especially regarding Megaforce and Super Megaforce, which I'm going to say Megaforce and Pirate Force, but that's my own gripe. Don't mind me. I completely forgot and just remembered that a certain individual who has been loving the Megaforce reactions that we did to react to another review regarding Megaforce and Super Megaforce. I hope this is the right one. I really do. From the Disney Brain, with apologies to Megaforce, a review. I don't know what this is going to say, but I hope to the world, to God, that it's, something that's bringing some light about their viewpoint on Megaforce. I hope they don't say that they liked it, because Lord Jesus. But hey, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, so let me stop my whining and complaining, and let's just get on with it.
Hello, Internet. I'm the Disney Brain, and I think the topic on the docket for today is long past due, for a number of reasons. In the PR fandom, it's practically become a rite of passage to rally against the sins of the seemingly indefensible travesty that is Megaforce, and to a higher degree for some, Super Megaforce. It's become so normal to meme and chastise this season for its admittedly numerous faults and wonky decisions, many innocuous, some a bit more head-scratching. And that's all good and fun. And quite frankly, a lot of you guys are here today because you happen to see my meme chastise Megaforce video and probably agree with most of it. But here's the thing. I kind of don't agree with it so much. Not necessarily because my points felt disingenuous, though a lot of them were intentionally hyperbolic to feed into the meme machine, but because in relying so much on that, there were many, many points I flat out missed on, or failed to include. And regardless of anything else that video is, including a much appreciated stimulator of new views and subs to my humble channel here, that was a disservice to you guys. I'm the one always preaching, dig a little deeper, look into things a little further, but then I thought purposely not talking about Orion was funny, somehow. Now, this isn't going to be me positing that Megaforce is some hidden gem or modern masterpiece now. Having recently rewatched this show with a much better perspective on things, that would be a blatant lie. However, I don't think any of us should be surprised when I say that there's a little more to this show than many of us, myself included many times, often gives it credit for, which is also why the title is what it is, since my previous videos were a disservice to the season as well. Especially when I've happily given other seasons more full and undivided attention when writing up their reviews. So, with that longer than necessary introduction out of the way, let's actually talk about Megaforce. The year 2013 marked the 20th anniversary of Power Rangers, and with it, the promise of a season that celebrates a rare milestone in really any industry, but especially something as fickle as television and film. And similar to their 10th anniversary, they celebrated by writing a season that made absolutely no sense in both typical and atypical Ranger ways. However, there's an earnestness to both seasons. Even though I and many other fans always dug Wild Force, that trait helped to eventually grant it a much larger fan base retroactively, because, believe it or not, it was not exactly well received in its time for similar reasons as Megaforce. And given the weirdly consistent, albeit overplayed, message of stop being a dig to the Earth present in both seasons, it really isn't too hard to deduce why. Megaforce isn't going out of its way to be any better written in those aspects, not even close. That said, however, I'd argue that this team's aggressively unsubtle belief in the human spirit and everything that comes with it never feels like a lie. That ends up defining a lot of both Mega seasons, but right now, I want to specifically focus on how this applies to Megaforce's stance on artificial intelligence. During the tail end of the season, after Robo Knight is well established, the depleted Warstar aliens are phased out for a bit in favor of Vrak creating his own Aquabase and building robots, which is a neat plot point to me, because Vrak of course doesn't actually belong to the race of bug people, and he was likely always planning on usurping Malcor's power when the opportunity arose. But I really like this throwaway line he gives, the one about how the insects of this world will never evolve quickly enough to overthrow humanity, as if to coyly bash the fact that every Warstar bug to this point has been equally as useless. But then I think, assuming James Bates had anything to do with it since he gave us the wonderful Decker, that it might not be a throwaway line. Recall that back in episode 1, the team gives us various answers to who they believe would survive the longest. Insects, robots, and humans are all mentioned, but the thing about insects is they don't pose the same existential threat to humanity that robots do, which is probably why everything Megaforce very bluntly emphasizes after robots become the enemy is how much better they are than humans, and by extension, biological life in general. And namely, how you can destroy one and mortality isn't an issue, just build a newer, better bot. If the bugs were so incapable that Troy could handle Kreepok solo, then Vrak transitioning to robots makes some sense on that level. You could easily argue that the relevance was happenstantial, but I don't know. The enemies seem really hell-bent on othering themselves relative to humans, so I wouldn't be too surprised if this was the legitimate plan, and in a better written show, it without a doubt would have been. This brings me to my main point about how robots like Robo Knight and Rico are utilized here. The Megaforce team operates with a genuine level of morality and kindness as it pertains to the bots they deal with. They aren't the equivalent of colorblind to what either of them are, but they aren't using their existence as a means of separation either. The Rangers see Robo Knight for who he is more than what he is, because what he is was never a point of contention. Likewise, Rico is treated as someone capable of embracing humanity in spite of not being human. Because if you give these Rangers even an inkling of a reason to believe in you, most of them generally will. Not in a gullible way, but more in an optimistic way. But here's my biggest takeaway from all of that. The idea of robotic mortality is the biggest thing separating them from humans. But the Megaforce Rangers still treat Rico like he's just as mortal as the rest of them. Troy, in particular, still treats Robo Knight as irreplaceable. The obvious framing here contrasts the metal Alice's take on her own kind, because the real difference here is compassion. Alice can rebuild as many robots as she wants, because she doesn't care about them one way or the other. But Emma only barely considers Mercy killing Rico for his own sake, and then saves him without the need to finish the fight. Because even if he was rebuilt, losing the Rico they know now would still hurt. Losing Robo Knight for any duration of time is damn near the only thing that makes Troy openly emotional. That right there is Megaforce's thesis statement on humanity. It's very in your face and very oddly slapped together at points, but it's very clearly there. And it's frankly a much cleaner, albeit far less ambitious, take on AI than even Toku shows that base their entire identity around that topic. Now let's talk about the often maligned characters of Megaforce. While I'm not suddenly going to give you a paragraph a person here because Jungle Fury cast they are not, I do think there's a tiny bit more to say here just in general, as directly opposed to the many embarrassing things I said last time. Emma is a hilarious character to me, because the jury is still out on whether or not she'd burn the city down to see trees grow in its place. She says she won't anymore, but I don't know. But in all honesty, I do think her recognizing her own mistake in blaming humanity for not living in a green paradise feels right, especially as a means to cap off their battles with the not-orgs that stem from human pollution. Again, it's poorly written by really any standard, but it builds into this idea that humanity is about overcoming adversity and errors, not being perfect. If there was an aspect missing from Emma as a character, though, I would assert that there could have been a Rico-esque episode but revolving around one of the Warstar bugs, since the idea should be to see humanity in everything, or at least try to. It doesn't even need to be a spiritual successor to Waspicable. In fact, given who she is, it would make sense if her kindness was abused by some bug to get the jump on her and the team, and this would build up fairly naturally to Rico the robot, in where Emma questions if her gentle heart could be in the wrong place this time anyways. We see a similar mentality when you take a look at Noah's early Focus episode, which still ranks among the best episodes this season. It's a basic but well put together inner struggle about not feeling like the superhero you were chosen to be. And really, as a send up to the way that Billy was portrayed back in the day, as the nerd who took it upon himself to change, that's pretty good. Especially since neither Blue Ranger necessarily develops out of the personality quirks that make them wonderful to begin with. They just allow themselves the avenue to be more certain in who they've always been. And also, they can kick ass harder as an added bonus. So you might be asking how this applies to Gia and Jake. Well, for Gia, I don't really have an answer for you. She doesn't have a traditional Focus episode, but is kind of always on top of things. She's the one understandably drilling Gosei for not telling them about Robo Knight. She's the one capable of, every now and then, reminding Troy that he's not as alone as he often feels, even if he never truly stops feeling that way until maybe the end of Legendary Battle. So, in spite of Sierra Hana having a relatively strong presence in her role, she might also be the most plainly written, as even the implications on the far margins of the writing don't do her as many favors as the others, ironically or otherwise. But with Jake, it's easy enough to see him as the exuberant party boy who only thinks he's got it all together, but in actuality can't be straightforward with what he thinks or how he feels most times. He's the kind of guy that genuinely believes in Noah when he also has trouble being honest with himself. But it takes a while before anyone calls him out on the fact that he often doesn't take his own advice. And given that we're meant to believe he's in high school, that front feels as honest as most things in this show. But nowhere does it feel more fully realized than with Troy Burrows. Troy's permanent state of uncomfortable stoicism is both one of the best and one of the worst aspects of Megaforce. But I'm not really here to discuss the latter in much detail, as every PR fan ever already has. No, I think not enough attention has been paid to the way his portrayal, dare I say, works. In the sense that, somewhat incidentally, Jonathan Sakora's iron-fisted mandates, mixed in with James Bates's writing touches here and there, created a more fascinating character than characters I consider better overall. And here's why. Troy is defined as a character burdened with purpose. He has all these legendary battle visions before he even becomes a ranger, and then he's supposed to lead a team of people when he is visibly uncomfortable around people. Just flat out cannot relate to them in spite of having a high-minded view of humanity and the inherent potential thereof. I say in spite, but I don't mean to imply that those ideas should be seen as linked by default. I don't think Troy is contradicting himself here. He's just, well, introverted. I can relate, many of us probably can. And what this creates is a character that never wants to feel vulnerable. One that never wants to feel unprepared or caught off guard for the mega mission they face. One of my favorite scenes in Megaforce is this meteor shower the team attends after the day's battle is won. Even Robo Knight is taking it in on his quest to understand humans better. But Troy isn't. Troy never does and never can truly relax. All he can think about, literally since the beginning, is what will threaten the Earth next. And there's something soberingly honest about that. He has to stare at and dream about this long lineage of superheroes he's never even met before, all while knowing that the next fight is a week away, and the next intergalactic threat is just another year away. That fitted into a franchise narrative of an endless war that 20 years of fighting couldn't stop makes the portrayal of Troy understandable to me, especially as a season meant to highlight that very legacy. Now, I don't think Troy is a well-conceived character, especially the suffocating way Andrew Gray was forced to play him. But I do think a lot of his barely human mannerisms make some modicum of sense, especially when you realize that he was never written with the intention of being this ideal, charismatic Wes Collins type hero. He's just another dude, one who is woefully underqualified for leadership, by his own admission, but still wants to do it perfectly, in spite of humanity's lack of perfection. Which is why the only especially strong dynamic he has is with a living embodiment of mission first, emotions never. Robo Knight isn't built to be vulnerable or emotional, so in Troy's eyes, he can't fail. In Troy's eyes, Robo Knight is inherently easier to trust than, for example, Orion next season, who he's immediately wary of. Why? Well, because he's one of those real people sorts that make him very nervy. That's why Robo Knight affects him so much, a point we'll build upon when we discuss Super. It all comes back to wanting to avoid being unguarded as much as possible and get the mission done, to the point where even his attempts at humor are nothing more than a tactic used specifically to take down a monster, forcing people to laugh. He's wired like early days Jen, but he acts like everyday Brody. And I think there's something to be said in a franchise that always preaches acceptance to give a fair shake to someone like Troy, who is allowed to keep being awkward and antisocial because that's who he is. And he's not harming anyone by being that. In fact, that's how he gets the job done. And perhaps most vitally here, nobody on his team seems to find that direct leadership style problematic. Everyone in Megaforce accepts everyone else for who they are. And that's one element of Mighty Morphin, among many others, I'm glad they got right. We'll talk more about Gosei and Robo Knight in the context of Super Megaforce, but Robo Knight mostly speaks for himself beyond what he means to Troy. However, I should probably address the rapping elephant in the room while I'm here. No, this was still not a great idea.
No, it was not.
It stands as one of the most blatantly racist moments of the era, if not the franchise. But, and there is a but, on the topic of humanity and its...
Now, he says that. He says that's the most racist thing, while Urban Ninja says that he'll accept that because of the fact that he's black. I don't know which one is worse. I'll let y'all in the comments down below think they'll talk about that, because I just thought it was stupid. I didn't think it was racist, and I'm black. But that's up to the person who's viewing it, I guess. Even though there's this whole argument, saying that how can other people who aren't black say that something is racist when if that significant race doesn't really necessarily think of it as racist or prejudice, and just think of it as stupid. I don't know. That's just something that you really have to think about after some time.
So many forms, I don't think we should completely discredit how Todd was the only library goer to not immediately run away from Robo Knight, but rather accept his genuine curiosity. The implications are eye-rolling, obviously, and the intentions aren't good enough to erase that, but not all of the implications. Because I honestly find it somewhat endearing how much Robo Knight learns from kids too young to feel threatened by his difference, and how all of that rolls all the way back to our main team, who are framed as in the right because they never lost sight of that exact same feeling, and eventually they befriend Robo Knight because of it. So for all of those reasons and many more, I think Megaforce has earned this much more positive and apologetic review. I don't think Megaforce is that great, even by its own kids show standards, and it certainly won't ever be one of my favorite seasons. But similar to Samurai, there's a lot about it that I can look back on and feel genuinely fond of. Despite what some of you may have been told, there are not zero reasons to like this show, and nobody in this fandom, or in general, should make you feel weird about liking it either. And I know for a fact that I've contributed to that at the expense of giving you guys the real breakdowns you deserve. And that wasn't right of me. In fact, it runs contrary to everything I want this channel to be. So, love Megaforce, hate Megaforce, meme Megaforce, please keep memeing it, because both seasons are gold mines for that, including, but not limited to, objectively the best Pixar
Jesus Christ!
Ever. But
no more with that face, please.
Let's also think about Megaforce. Let's consider its myriad of problems, yes, but also its handful of creative flashes and dedicated takes on several of its core concepts. And if you still think it's an important attack on all 5 of your senses, great. But at least then, I was able to promote actual discussion, and not blanket vilification. And for as long as I can, that's exactly what I'll keep doing. So, I'll close by saying that this was both a challenging but rewarding essay to put together, and now I just have to figure out a way to properly present damn near everyone's least favorite PR season. But I'm honestly looking forward to it.
Good luck with that, bro. Good luck with that. Good luck with that, because that's a whole different can of worms. And I know he did that, which is what we're going to be doing next in the next video right after this one. Because I guess you can say that it's one thing to look past the faults that this season had, but the next season, in my honest opinion, no. Y'all saw how I reacted in that. And it's not even because of the fact that I love the Super Sentai so much. It's because of the fact that I always wanted a lot of the Super Sentai teams before Mighty Morphin to come into play with Power Rangers. Like, if there was any other way to introduce these teams, or like give a story or some type of background about these teams, instead of just using the Sentai footage to just, oh, well, here they are. There could have been a better way to do that. Instead of just hand it to us with the Sentai footage and just say, oh, well, here's this, just have fun with that. And this honestly just proves my point even more, that the fandom will always save this franchise from destroying itself. It always will, in my honest opinion. It always will. With that being said, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what y'all think about this. Show your support in any way you can. This has been Master of Sakurai. I'll see y'all again in the next video. Peace.
We keep dreaming of a world where all is good, so we will.